Now let's look into API providers. So API providers are the ones who is responsible to create the API with some business logical, um, with some business logic, right? The exposing an API, again, they have to maintain set of modules and routines. It's not that easy to create an API, right? I have to look for the security so that someone don't hamper my system, right? And I need to figure out what kind of business logic I need to use, what methods should I give, get, post, put, patch, delete, how to handle pagination, I have to write the documentation for that particular API, and I need to track and control the usage of those APIs, who is using it. And eventually for API providers, they need to monetize the usage of such APIs. And then they have to link it to the databases or flat files or sometimes to any operations, what they need to do. And the other part they have is Swagger or Open API documentation, which can bind all your endpoints to an application, and it can be exposed to any teams so that they can do a quick data checks. So that helps in this agile world to validate the data quickly, and they can start their own programming other parts. Right now, let's see how DataFinz is going to help for the API providers. Okay, so the first use case, we want to expose the analytics platform as an API. So we have data analytics team. So they have the entire EDW, big data, data lake, etc. Everything is there. And finally, they run the predictive models and generate their output in data marts, and they expose in reports or dashboards. In addition to that, for their internal thing, they want to expose this data to other internal teams and external partner teams, right? So the one simple way is API. So how easily the data team can expose their data as an API without writing a code. Let's see how DataFinz is going to help it. So here again, 3 steps. So first step is connect, which is same like a earlier one. And again, here only one connection, right? Because it's always the source connection. And the second part is I had to set what kind of authentication it would be. That would be set at the application level. And then we have to design what are the different objects. I had to pick the objects, pick the attributes, methods, etc. And finally, I publish it. Now let's take a look how this model look like. So for this, I'm going to get into API Publisher. So in the designer, we see the list of APIs published. Let's take a look into sales. The sales is coming from the Snowflake connection. So if you see, we have created APIs from Azure Data Lake, S3, Azure SQL, Oracle, Postgres, you name it, we can create APIs from anywhere, as well as from any type of database object like table, view, stored proc, or flat files, etc. Right? Let's look into the sales API. So this form looks like at the top what is the API name going to be, object, and what is the object name. So here we have used Snowflake, and I'm picking as an object. When we pick as object, all the objects going to appear here. I can pick that, or I can do a custom SQL or object. Even the views also I can pick. Or if I pick stored proc, all the stored procs is going to appear, and I can pick from there. And these are all the current endpoints for this particular object. So we have write endpoint with post call, and we have read endpoint. I can create a new endpoint as well. So let me show how the existing read API was created. So this is the get call. So step 1, we finished picking the object. Step 2 is the endpoint, and we are naming it as read. I can give the endpoint description here for the documentation purpose. And what is the option? This is get. Once this is done, I'm going to pick the attributes. So I'm picking 3 different attributes: order number, quantity ordered, and price each. So good thing here is it's going to come up with a camel case suggested field name. It will automatically come with the camel case. And if I need to overwrite it, I can go ahead and do that. So that's for the selection of fields. And the last one is filter. So filter is something in case if I need to ask mandatory certain fields for the get calls, I can enable that. So this will be a mandatory field for a consumer to pass that information. So here I'm going to get the order number and finish it. So once this is done, so this API is active. So I can reach a test validate it using Postman or any other thing. And for the security related authentication, it is set at the application level, right? And I can start or stop this API. So we have the sales here. So if I stop, it's going to stop that particular service. And I can schedule this in the scheduler so that for a certain period of time, I can make this API as an active, and rest of the time I can stop it in case if I need to focus on my infrastructure savings, I can make use of that. Okay, so now let's take a look into documentation part. So that's the creation of APIs. So you have seen how quickly I can expose my any database object or flat files, which can be anywhere, into an API. So now let's look into the last one, which is a Swagger or Open API specifications. So now I have a list of applications or list of endpoints. I can create a Swagger documentation. We don't have any other vendor providing the creation of Swagger automatically from the APIs. So this is one of our unique value add, where API endpoints created through DataFinz, we create a Swagger quickly, and it's just few seconds. I don't need to do anything. Just add the endpoints and publish it, and that will be operational for anyone to use. So again, 3 steps here. So I create an application. I'm going to set the authentication methods. So this authentication method, it will run for the entire endpoints. If I set the authentication method as JWT, it's going to, for that API endpoint, you have to use JWT authentication. And then second step, add the endpoints and finally generate the Swagger. So now let's take a look how it is done. Within the API publisher, come to the documentation. So in this documentation, we can see all the APIs available, all the Swaggers available. So for convenience purpose, we have created 3 different Swagger documentation. One without authorization, one with bearer token, and last one with the basic authorization. So the moment, let's edit one of the Swagger and see, right? So we have first step, we have given what is the application name, and I have set the authorization type, basic authorization. I can add n number of users to it so that I can track who is using this particular API, right? And second step is the module. I can create the modules. So here for convenient purposes, we created few modules and we have given what is the source for each one of the modules, right? It's like for accounts, we are creating from S3, from the CSV. Customer, it is an Azure SQL, sales Postgres, Snowflake, RDS, and Azure Data Lake. So these are some of the modules we created. And step 3 is whitelisting. So if I need to whitelist some of the IPs, I can give the ranges here. So only those IPs alone will authenticate, or our gateway will allow to enter. Otherwise, it's going to block it there. And finally, the endpoint selections. So here I can pick whatever endpoints bind to this particular Swagger documentation. I can build it. so that I can create specific Swagger documentation for my unique set of business teams, and I can publish it. So once this is done, it's done, and I hit the play button to generate the Swagger. So the Swagger is created. We can go and click this to view the Swagger. So this is the URL, which is unique for this particular application, where you can expose this to any of your external customers and give the basic authorization, since we have set it as basic authorization, for them to validate. So if I go here, I can take a look. Okay, so this is the gateway, and I have the modules, whichever I created, it's nicely fitting in the proper format. And what are the endpoints tying to each one of the module, like account, I have get, customer, I have patch and get, etc. Everything, right? Now I can authorize, if I'm an external team, I can authorize and I can validate this data quickly. So this is ETF flow 1. I'm going to put hit authorize, so it is done. So I can quickly validate how my sales read is. I'm going to make use of this one. Can do try it out. And the order number, I'm going to send it as 1. Since I have made that as a mandatory, I have to give that. So if you see the response is 200, I'm getting the order. There are only 1 records. And the order number, what is this? So we automatically give what are the total records and how many are fetched in this particular case. And second set, we will give the data as an array. And finally, we give the return message status and return value, etc. Right? So now, simply, I'm able to expose without any coding. I did not do anything at all to generate this Swagger page. So it is very quick. Now, if I go and let's say I'm going to stop this sales service. So I stopped it, right? So I have an indicator here. It shows the status as red, which means it is not active. And this valid status, it shows everything, the specification, the connections, everything is valid one, but this is not active. Right? Let's see what happens if I'm going to run the same thing again. So if I hit, now I'm getting a message saying API is not active, contact admin. So it's a good scenario for us to validate if you want to make it active or inactive. You can do at any point of time without doing any implementation. But if you look into the other vendors or other architectural streams, you have to explicitly deploy if I want to stop any one of the servers. So all these things are automated now. And it's a click of button. You can do start your service and stop your service. So that's, if I need to activate again, let me activate it. It's done. So let's rerun and see how it comes through. Go to execute it. It's done. I'm getting the data now. So that's on the Swagger part. So how easily we can create and expose to the data teams, right? So nutshell for the publish APIs. As an API provider, DataFinz is going to expose all your source systems as an API endpoint, and we also create the Swagger for that. We have features like start API service, stop API service, and monitor usage. And let me show the monitoring the usage part too. So we have here usage. So this will show all the queries which are hitting here. So right now we have checked on the ETW1 sales read. So that is coming here. I can view the complete information on that and what time it was hit and how much it took. All those information are recorded. So that's the monitor usage. And eventually we are planning to have the mechanism to allow the access only for our users during a certain period of time. And we can also measure how much queries they can, or how much APIs they can hit, right? And accordingly, we can set the licensing and other thing depending on the provider's terms to their end users. Those things are in the beta version. We will be launching it soon. And here are the API consumers where they request and they get the responses. So we have seen how we can create the REST APIs in clicks, and it can expose tables, views, stored procs, flat files, auto generation of swaggers, track and control the usage of APIs, and authentications in the application. We have seen basic. We have JWT or NoAuth also. So benefits here, again, 99% development productivity, and cost savings are much more higher because the process here is slightly different.